Hello, it's Shriz. Welcome back to the channel. Or if you're new, welcome to the channel. Hope you're having a great day. This is going to be another video in a series of ReZero videos that I have been posting non-stop. We're going to be taking a look at and explaining every single, and I mean every single one, whether they've died or they're alive, Sin Archbishops' powers and what they can do. And of course, if you find this video informative or just enjoy it in any way, shape, or form, make sure to drop a like and, pretty please subscribe. And one other thing, make sure to let me know down in the comments below whether you want me to do a ranking list on their powers. Or what do the kids call it these days? A tier list. Yeah, a tier list. And I will put them in tiers of who I think's the strongest. So without further ado, let's hop into the Sin Archbishop's powers. Abilities, authorities, whatever. And here's a little PSA if you're an anime only watcher and don't want to get spoiled. I have no idea why you're here, but yeah, I figured I'd give you a little warning that this might have some spoilers and you should probably start reading the material. You can choose to watch if you want to. I don't think it'll be that big of a deal. But then again, I've had a lot of things spoiled in my day, so nothing's a big deal to me. But if you choose to leave, I completely understand. All I'm asking is for you to drop a like before you go. So now let's start off with the one that pretty much everybody knows. From anime watchers to source material readers. The lover boy himself, Petelgeuse Romanee-Conti. And also the leader of the moderate faction of the witches cult. Beetlejuice has the authority of sloth. This gives him the power to utilize the unseen hand. And as the name suggests, he's able to conjure up multiple dark hands from his body. And multiple's kind of an understatement, like a lot. These hands are basically an extension of himself and he can control to do whatever he wants without moving a single muscle on his own. Basically a telekinetic limb. The hands at base are very powerful on its own, can just shred through people, break down rocks, punch through holes, punch through buildings, trees, you name it. But they can also combine together to make a bigger hand that can do even more damage. He has the potential to summon 100 hands at maximum, but can opt to sacrifice some of the hands in order to control others around him, known as the fingers. These fingers, similar to the unseen hand, are inherently an extension of his will. He can make do his bidding. He can also use the hand to lift himself off the ground and fly, even though that's kind of questionable on whether the hands can just float and keep him in the air. And according to the wiki, he's just throwing himself in the air and using himself as the projectile to be able to fly. Along with the fingers, Beetlejuice has the power of possession. While giving his fingers the witch factor of sloth, he actually gives himself a one-way contract to be able to take over the body whenever he wants. And over his 400 plus years of life, he used that to stay alive, practically becoming immortal. Although this ability does have limits, as he can't possess spirit art users or those with contracts with spirits. Now, although this video is supposed to stick to the witch factors or the authorities and what abilities they get from those, I feel it's necessary to bring up whether or not they have, another ability. In Beetlejuice's case, he has Dona, an earth-style magic, or earth element magic. I don't know why I went on Naruto on you. So those are all Beetlejuice's abilities, and of course, at the end of his death, the witch factor was bestowed upon Natsuki Subaru, just to remind some of you. Now we're going to be moving on to the Sin Archbishop of Greed, Regulus Corneas, aka Echidna's long-lost brother. By the way, I like to joke, don't go around calling Regulus her actual brother, please don't do that. Regulus Corneas, the Sin Archbishop of Greed, obviously would have the authority of greed. And this authority gives him two really overpowered strong abilities, and even had Regulus considered the strongest Sin Archbishop of all time. The stillness of an object's time and lion's heart. Regulus has the ability to stop time of anything he is wearing or touching, as well as his own internal organs. So for example, if he freezes time, nothing outside of that time that he is frozen can interact with the time bubble or envelope that he has, if that makes sense. So if you're going to throw a punch, and your punch goes to an area where time has stopped, you couldn't continue your move, because how are you going to move in an area where time has stopped? Or how are you going to affect something in an area where time has stopped? It basically makes an invincible force field of time. He also has the ability to infuse other objects and manipulate them freely, changing size, location, and can use them as a weapon or as a means of travel. And even if you've only watched the anime, you can see the effectiveness of this yourself when he kicks dirt at Pandora. And since this dirt is imbued with the ability and can travel through whatever he wants, with no outward force being able to stop it, it left holes in Pandora that she couldn't stop either. So he can quite literally make an unstoppable force out of basically anything. As you can see, turning dirt into a weapon that is unstoppable. Which obviously, given this ability, I'm inclined to tell you that literally when I say anything touching him, I'm serious. So you heard about it with the dirt, but he can also do it with the air. Stopping air and time and using it as basically an unstoppable cut of wind that you can't see. It's definitely one of the most lethal attacks in his arsenal because that means ammo is everywhere. So you could begin to see all the different things he could do with this ability. Basically granting him the ability to be almost invincible and literally turning anything around him into a weapon. That's kind of ridiculous. And you can kind of see why a lot of people consider him one of the strongest Sin Archbishops in history. And this ability also coincides with his next ability, Lion's Heart. It's another time freezing ability, but this time it pertains to freezing his own heart, basically rendering him invincible. Again. So if you were able to hit him, now he can basically freeze his life. in time. And if his life is frozen, he can't die, but there is a catch. Now, I'm almost tempted to say that this is almost like a soul time freezing ability, because this one seems to make it where he can do basically anything he wants. Move at the speed he chooses through time, or technically not through time because he's freezing time, but then since his time is frozen, he's moving through their time. It's a little complicated, but I think you're getting the idea. The laws of physics no longer apply to him whatsoever. Now, this ability even made him a threat to the likes of Reinhardt, or maybe not a threat, but at least a problem. And if you're an informed ReZero fan, you know exactly why. I mean, like, that's crazy. Reinhardt is not exactly the man to be toyed with. He's basically a demigod. But Regulus using Lion's Heart even made the likes of Reinhardt von Austria's attack practically useless. Now, there are some downsides to this ability. Regulus really can only use it for 5 seconds and 10 seconds at the max, even though he doesn't want to do that. After 5 seconds, he endures excruciating pain, and if he pushed it to its limits, he would die of heart failure. So you can't use it but for 5 seconds at a time. But even then, Regulus found a way around this, combining his heart with the heart of his 200 wives, basically using their hearts as stand-ins to keep the ability going for way longer periods of time. Although this did put his wives in danger, let's be honest, he doesn't really care about them, and it worked to his benefit strongly. So he could pause his heart, and then another wife's heart in place of his heart, and then so on and so forth for a long amount of time. I'm not exactly sure how far away this ability works, or the range of it, but according to Tappe, they just have to be close enough for them to feel his love, whatever that means. And he could use one ability while using his wife's heart for another ability, and he walked around practically invincible, as I've said so many times before. Which, of course, invincible in quotes, because some of you know what happens to him. So yeah, the man's just ridiculously overpowered. Now let's move on to the Sin Archbishop of Gluttony. The Sin Archbishop of Gluttony, Lewis. And then you could throw Roy and Lai into there as well, because I don't feel like breaking down a whole backstory. Rim fans know the pain. Lewis has the authority of gluttony. This gives her the ability to eat people's names or memories, making everyone in the world either forget their name or their memories, or both, effectively making them not exist. In eating a person's memories, she's able to take advantage of the abilities that they once had and can use them to her own benefit, like a form of ability absorption. To eat a person's name, she has to touch the target with her left hand and then lick her left hand. A character's name being eaten can make them effectively like nothing to the world. They never existed. Nobody knows who they were. However, if they keep their name and their memories were just eaten, they effectively become a new person, such as Krush, because they don't have the life experience and the memories to become the character that they had become, resetting them and making them a completely different person and developing from there almost as a new. If they've had both eaten, they basically go into limbo. Even though their physical body is there, they're no more than a shell. They don't need to eat. They're not exactly alive. They're not exactly dead. No eating, no aging. Basically just existing. One other thing to note is that she cannot eat the same person's memories twice. At least that is until they form a new personality or have enough memories that are worth eating, I guess. So yeah, she's not just gonna eat you and then like see you the next day and eat you again. Gluttony also cannot take on the divine protection of whoever she's eaten as well. Divine protections do not transfer to her. So now she can use their abilities, and another thing she could do is transform her appearance to look like the person she has eaten. Similar to the Witch of Gluttony, the Sin Archbishop of Gluttony can also control demon beasts as well, like the White Whale, although she cannot control all of them. She can also split her witch factor and divide it into other people, basically making them like a puppet, as seen with Lai and Subaru. Last but not least, she has the ability of creation, similar to the Witch of Gluttony who created the White Whale, although she hasn't been seen doing so or even stated that she's done so, because she and her brothers find it unnecessary. Roy, Lai, and Lewis all have the same ability, even though they have different eating habits. Moving on to the Witch of Wrath, Sirius. The alive mummy. Literally. Sirius has the ability to basically control people with their emotions, and can project the emotions to anyone within the vicinity, making them angry, distraught, sad. Sirius can also share the senses of other people that are around each other. Then Sirius can share the sense of dying with another person next to them, and they would die in a similar way. So if one person had a heart attack and they felt what it's like to have a heart attack, then Sirius would share those emotions and feelings with somebody else, and they would also do the same. Which is kind of impressive. It's kind of wild. Both range and awareness can affect how this ability will affect the person she's using it on. So further away, the emotions won't overtake you as much as being close. And awareness, as in if you know that's what a Sirius is doing, then you're aware that these emotions are your own, and it's kind of easier to, maintain yourself and be calm. As for if you didn't know, you could possibly go mad and just be very angry without knowing why. So in other words, yeah, just hide and make people mad or sad and stuff, and you won. Sirius also has the ability of longevity, and this is said to coincide with her authority of wrath, although it hasn't really been given a specific ability name or a reason why. In other words, looks like a mummy, acts like a mummy, is alive long enough to be a mummy, must be a mummy. That being said, although she has an extremely long lifespan, nonetheless, she's said to be the strongest out of all the archbishops. And I know I've said that before, but this time I mean physically strong, like as far as like strength and punching people and whatnot. She also carries around trains that she can basically manipulate fire with, as she is very proficient with fire magic. So that was a rather short one in comparison to the others. Gotta keep it moving. The Sin Archbishop of Lust, Capella. She has the ability of variation and change, which is very general as it sounds. She can turn into whatever she wants to. Give herself body parts she didn't have before. Turn into a different creature. Also, by touching someone else or something else, she can turn it into whatever she wants as well. Basically a genie. And the really overpowered part is she can like lose a limb, literally like a head, arm, and she can transform that wounded limb or something that's not even there anymore into an uninjured limb like it was never hurt before. Here's a quote by Al, a fan favorite character you can trust. After I cut off her head and crushed her heart, she regenerated spare parts. So yeah, basically self-healing. That's crazy, right? And not some time-consuming self-healing either. But yeah, that's the really overpowered part. But I mean, she can turn into a dragon, turn dragons into people, divide one person into like multiple different other creatures. It's really amazing. When Capella's in her dragon state, she can shoot out black flames that can burn and consume literally anything it touches and can't be put out with water. Basically Amaterasu. Capella's body also contains the dragon's blood. She can use this blood to affect other people, although the effects do vary from person to person. While some may fall ill and could possibly die, others can remain unaffected. Krush being on the bad side of the token and Subaru being on the I'm okay side of the token. So there wasn't a whole lot to go over there, but variation and changes give her the ability to do so many other things. And if I were to list out every single thing she can do with variation and change, well, we'd be here for a while. Now, this one's going to be brief as well. The Sin Archbishop of Pride, or ex-Sin Archbishop of Pride, Stride Vollachia. Apparently him and Wilhelm von Austria used to like beef for years and years and years, and that was like his enemy and rival somewhat. And just before Stride died, he revealed himself to be the Sin Archbishop of Pride. Although there's no real use cases of him being able to use any sort of authority given to him that would be considered the Pride authority. But I felt it was necessary to go over regardless. He had the ability to use the Yang Sword of Vollachia, which is a very powerful tool, and I went over it in my Priscilla analysis video. So if you want to know more about that, that was my last video, and you can, get a pretty nice look at it. And somebody in the comments said something about it too. So yeah, if you want to know more about that, go to the Priscilla analysis video. It will be right here. A very powerful weapon though. He also has the 10 cursed rings. He can use them to cast curses on people, manipulate them like puppets, and can even be said to bring out the maximum potential in the puppets he's using, although that could result in their death. Although these curse rings did have drawbacks, and is said to have left his body almost indistinguishable from when he first got them. So yeah, that was the quote-unquote self-proclaimed Sin Archbishop of Pride. And last but not least, she is a de facto Sin Archbishop that is worth bringing up. Pandora. Basically the puppet master of the witch cult. Although she technically doesn't represent a specific sin. She does run in cahoots, and I'm sure somebody would get mad at me if I didn't bring her up at least. As she does have an authority, and she is a big part of the witch cult. And is basically a de facto Sin Archbishop, although she doesn't represent a sin. And she's basically like one of the main antagonists of the story, so honestly I can't wait to make a video specifically about her. But anyway, let's hop to it. She has the authority of vainglory. Although this is not directly attributed to her authority, she is seen to have the ability to basically rewrite history. Basically an author that can erase something and put whatever she wants into the storyline that she's in. She can undo her death as if it never happened. She can rewrite people's memories, as well as just a person as a whole. Basically taking an eraser and just marking them out of the timeline of history. Pretty similar to Gluttony in that way. An example of her using her ability to rewrite history was seen with Regulus Corneas, whenever him and Petelgeuse were fighting. And she basically rewrote the time at the moment that he never came to the forest. So not only did he get taken away, and it seemed as though he was teleported, Petelgeuse's injuries and blood that was all over him also went away too, as if he was never there. So not only can she rewrite that somebody was never there, the effects of what happened because of that person's presence also go away. She's also shown to be able to trick people's senses and making them see something that they didn't see before. Like with Beetlejuice, when she had Beetlejuice tricked into thinking Fortuna was her, and he ended up attacking her. That is also an ability of hers that's able to trick other people. But being able to rewrite history is just wild. That's a very wild thing to do. And somehow rewriting your death after your death? I don't know, man. A lot of explaining to be done right there. Anyways, I think that about covers it. Those are all the Sin Archbishops and their powers. Every single bit of it explained. If you have any thoughts, make sure to put them in the comments down below. Like if there's something that you think other people should know about the Sin Archbishops, make sure to put it in the comments down below. I do not mind. This is a community after all. And of course, it probably helped me out too, so appreciate it. And as I said at the beginning of the video, make sure to drop a like if you enjoyed. Here's a random video that you might just enjoy. It's Shriz, and this is all the Sin Archbishop's powers explained. So yeah, I've got to run. I'm going to go sip on some of Echinus tea, and I hope to catch you in another video. God dang it.